So you just received a notice of the Division of Labor Standards Enforcement's Claim End Conference, and you don't know what to expect. Hi, I'm Adam Juratovac, and I'm an employment law attorney over here in San Jose, California at Juratovac Law. And we represent employers and employees in various different types of legal disputes, including disputes at the Labor Commissioner's Office or the Division of Labor Standards Enforcement. So, you filed a wage claim. You received the complaint, and now after waiting 6 months, 3 months, a year sometimes, you received a notice from the DLSE, the Division of Labor Standards Enforcement, that you now have a notice of claim in conference. So it's a claim in conference meeting. A lot of people will normally call it a hearing or a trial, or sometimes just say, hey, I have a meeting at the Labor Commissioner's Office. But this is what you should really expect there. So you have the notice of claim in conference. That's going to put you, the employer, the employer's lawyer, and the Deputy District Labor Commissioner in the same room at the same time. Oops, I got a meeting now too. Or nowadays, calling into the same phone line or logging into the same Zoom to really just verify the complaint. And what do you mean by verify the complaint? I mean, the labor commissioner is usually going to start off with talking to the employee or the plaintiff or the claimant in this situation and just start verifying, hey, is this your name? What were your dates of employment? What was your first rate of pay? What was your first hourly rate? What was your first salary? When did your salary change? What is your good mailing address? What's a good email address to reach you? What's their phone number? Do you have a lawyer? What's their contact information? What days did you normally work? What hours did you normally work? On the days that you are claiming that you worked overtime without being paid it, what did that normally look like? How many days do you think you worked overtime and weren't paid overtime? How many hours in each day were you working and not getting paid for? Then they're going to ask you all the questions they can about the wage and hour liability. And then they're going to start moving down your complaint to each of the issues that you said there were. So for example, if there were a lot of missed meal breaks and rest periods, they're going to say, okay, what was the typical process of you taking a meal break? And then they're going to leave it open-ended for you. They're going to ask you if there's a clock in, clock out. They're going to ask you how many hours a day you worked, whether it be 8 hours, 4 hours, or 10 hours, because what they're really doing is they are confirming the complaint and making sure that everything that you're telling them is accurately conveyed within that document, within the complaint that you've created. Because what the labor commissioner is doing during this meeting is they're taking everything you're saying, they're taking, which are your allegations, this is what you say are true and correct. They're not taking in any evidence, and they're going to be updating your complaint so then that they can give what's called notice to the employer, or notice to the defendant, notice to the respondent, notice to your former employer of what they actually need to defend when this case is pursued at a hearing, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from today. So, because one thing is, anytime that you're going through a legal process, part of due process is that if you are being sued or you're being reprimanded or getting a demerit, you have the right to know what you need to defend. What are the allegations coming against you? Because then if you go to the hearing date and I'm the defendant and I don't know what allegations I need to defend, I cannot properly defend myself, and then I would not be entitled to my due process in order to fight the complaints and fight the allegations. So that, if remember from the previous videos, when you file with the Labor Commissioner's Office, it's a free process and essentially an administrative agency of the state of California, which is meant for normal lay people and employees to go adjudicate and advocate for themselves and advocate for their rights. Now, when that happens, sometimes people don't always fill out the forms accurately. They don't fill out the complaints accurately. So that's why you have this claim in conference meeting, because the labor commissioner wants to make sure that what really happened to you is truly conveyed on that complaint form. And oftentimes, what the labor commissioner will do is they're going to say, oh, based on what you're telling me now, the amount that you're alleging, the maximum amount of overtime and unpaid overtime and missed meal period premiums, rest period premiums, liquidated damages, unreimbursed business expenses, it should actually be higher than what you listed here. And that's a good thing for you, because those forms are difficult to read. Those forms, the California Labor Code is difficult to understand, unfortunately. And that's one of my qualms about it is, there are bad laws when a normal, sophisticated business owner reads it and doesn't understand what it's saying. Now, that's a normal, sophisticated business owner. So let's talk about normal, sophisticated employees. When I'm reading something, a government form, and it's saying, hey, calculate your hours in this specific manner, if I don't get it right, I'm hoping that someone will help correct me. And that's what this claimant conference is for. This is the opportunity for you to ask a lot of questions. This is the opportunity for you to talk to the labor commissioner and figure out what the process is. Now, what is this claimant conference not? This claimant conference is not an opportunity for you to present evidence. This claimant conference is not an opportunity for you to start yelling at your former employer and their lawyer saying that they're crooks and they're robbers and they're stealing from you. This is not the opportunity for you to cross-examine their witnesses or the owner or the manager or anything like that. And this is not the opportunity to, show the labor commissioner, hey, these are the records. Tell me I'm right and tell my employer they need to pay me within 30 days. That's not what this is for. But this is an opportunity for you to ask a lot of questions, a lot of clarifying questions with the labor commissioner, just to figure out what the process is and figure how long you have to wait until you get to the next step, the hearing, the trial, the Berman hearing that you have coming up. But that's not all the claimant conference is, because anytime you have a meeting of the parties together, there's usually opportunities, right? So there's usually an opportunity for an informal mediation. But when you're going into it, don't think that the labor commissioner is going to be a neutral third party, because this is a mediation, right? So their job is to split the parties into two different rooms and then go from room to room to see if there can be a deal or a settlement that can be had among the parties on that day. Now, 9 times out of 10, I'll even go closer to 95 times out of 100, even if there's a mediation at the claimant conference, there will not be a settlement at that same conference, because there is no evidence that's presented, because you haven't had the opportunity to show and display your evidence and question their supervisors or question their practices, methods, and their systems. So a lot of the times the parties aren't close together to meet, right? They're not going to make a deal at that moment. But it does give you a good opportunity to see if there is an appetite for settlement, an appetite for resolution, because at the same time, that employer, they're going to be there, and they're oftentimes going to have their lawyer there as well. And when their lawyer is there, it's a good time to discuss settlement and discuss negotiations in that instance. So this is the quick, in 10 minutes, in a nutshell, what is the claimant conference at the Division of Labor Standards Enforcement. And now you know.